Okay, so the big question is, why on earth are we here? And what the hell are we doing?
Well, that's a very good question. Um, so, well, I think we are exceptionally good at having conversations. And we thought it could be fun for us mainly, but maybe for other people who want to witness said conversations about life and meaning. I think there's something about clarity in there, isn't it? It's like we navigate all of these things in our lives and often don't press pause just to reflect on what the hell is going on. So I think the why are we here? What came through was unpacked, wasn't it? It's like unpacking stuff.
Everything. Everything.
So we're going to pick a word or an experience or a something and unpack it. And a way we could do that, which might change, but the current way is thinking about, okay, so we're going to do life today. We
Mhm.
unpack that as a word. Well, so you've got this incredible multilingual brain, which has all kinds of definitions for words in both English and other languages, right?
Yes, and also so many gaps in it now where I can't remember any of the words in any of the languages. So it might be incredible, but it's also slightly mental.
Well, I also think, but don't tell anyone, we could just use Google every now and then, right? So if we have a mental block, we just Google it to help
Okay.
fill the gap, rather than sitting there going,
Might not be the best experience for
I'm
anybody who
sure
does
there's a
decide to
word.
listen to this.
So that unpacking thing, and I think what's quite interesting about the journey, isn't it? It's about how have we experienced that in the past?
Mhm.
How are we experiencing it right now? Because we're going to go on this little journey together, right? As we
Yes.
explore these conversations. So we're going to have a present experience of something, and then we can anticipate what we might like in the future because we're at that interesting age, aren't we? Where,
Yeah.
have we
Everything's
got more
changing.
behind us than ahead? Don't know.
Yes,
Maybe.
yeah, but also
Maybe.
because you're going to be traveling around the world, so your actual experience of life and what's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
in the midst of all of these cultures and changes and craziness, because that's going to be part of it as well.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be so many different elements that are going to hopefully add to the conversation. And yeah, will no doubt take us down some really crazy, crazy paths and hopefully, explore different conversations that are interesting enough that it sparks a thought or it sparks something in both of us and anyone else that then decides that they want to join us on this journey. But basically it's about that, isn't it? Unpacking
Yeah.
our experience as a way to then find that connection with ourselves and the inspiration to then go forward
Yeah.
and figure out where the hell we really want to be.
Yeah. We talked about it being a frank conversation, um,
Mm.
so that they're candid and frank being or referring to my thesis around, those thoughts and emotions and the bits that people typically don't see. So
Yeah,
we will go there.
we will in all of its
Ah.
wondrous goriness. But yeah, about showing up, both you and I
Mm,
believe so strongly about this, about showing up as who we are with all the shiny bits and all the bits that aren't so shiny, and not being scared of
mm,
showing, what's going on, where are you at, you
mm.
know, what is this experience like for you at the minute, rather than presenting this polished facade, she says, with a lipstick and a, and a living done, but not offering an idea of reality
Yeah.
that's bollocks, basically. I just said my first
Absolutely.
swear word. Oh no.
Well, that's tick that box then,
Okay,
we
yep.
are going to be swearing.
We
So,
will be, yeah.
what we'll do at the beginning and end of every session is use
Mhm.
the clarity cards, which were the output of my research. And these represent 40 thoughts and emotions that can be experienced when pursuing goals. And a goal can be as little as getting out of bed in the morning to motorcycling around the world. So it doesn't
Not
matter how
one
big or
of
small the
mine.
goal is.
Yeah. I'm more on the end of let's just get out of bed in the morning and we'll see what happens.
And so there are 40 cards. So well, I mean, we're not going to explain this every time, but it's probably worth doing it on the first time. And then we can refer people back to it, can't we? Do you want to explain it? Because you were like there, ready with your card.
I mean, we both know I'm definitely your number one fan, and I freaking love these cards and use them all the time, both for myself and, in session with people. So I'll explain them and then you can correct me if I'm missing something.
No
Okay.
corrections, just interpretations, huh?
So basically, Lindsay developed this amazing tool, which, it's got this clarity compass. And then this enables us to figure out where we are and what's going on right now. So I don't think you can see it that well on my screen. It might be good for you to show it on yours. But basically on this clarity compass, the way I start with it is always by asking, okay, where am I today? High energy, low energy, somewhere in the middle. Am I more to the top? Am I more to the bottom? And let's do it real time. So I'm high energy today. And then once I figure out where I am energetically, then I would decide, or I would ask whoever I'm working with, okay, now that we know where we are on an energetic level, are we more towards the side of ease or unease? How are you feeling? And then that inevitably takes us to one of the 4 quadrants, which have got colors. And that then takes us to, so I'm in high energy ease, which would take me to yellow. Yellow, yellow. Not mellow yellow because I'm high energy.
And there
Okay.
are 10 in each quadrant. So each quadrant has a selection of thoughts and emotion cards. So this is the confusing thing. So I go that way and it goes the other way.
Okay.
So you're
So
in
then
the
what I normally do is then I mean, let's talk about it for me. So what I do is that I then go through the 10 cards and I choose either the one or as many of these statements that resonate with where I am today. Okay. So just quickly flicking through.
So while you flick through, I'm in the middle. So when I think am I high energy, I'm actually I think physically quite tired because I get up ridiculously early every single day.
You do.
So we talk at 2:30 this morning. But between 2:30, the latest I get up is about 4:30. And people are like, oh no, that's terrible. I think it's the greatest gift I have. It gives me all this extra time. So I don't suffer with insomnia. I have the gift of,
Yeah.
having these early mornings. And I'm really smashing through these challenging things to do. And so I think physically I'm quite drained because it's like doing the house. So it's mental and physical work that we're having to do right
Yeah.
now to get ourselves ready. But I'm mentally quite excited. So
Alert.
in my head, I'm really like up, and my body's kind of going, can I just lie down, please?
Can I stay in bed
I just
today,
want to lie
please?
down. I can do it all with minimal movement. So yeah, my
Nice.
energy levels are low. So I'm in these 2 cards. So what you tell me yours, and then I'm going to flick through. And,
Okay, so definitely feeling motivated. So all of the cards have got these amazing little drawings on as well. So I'm feeling motivated. I can do this. I am
what are
so
we referring to then when you say you can do it?
um
Because
well,
this
I
is
mean
right
what
now,
comes
right?
up to me, yeah, right now is I can find the balance that I need in order to be able to do what I want to do and not have the physical consequences afterwards. So, because I am, what would the word be? Do I want to say lucky? Blessed God, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. But basically, I have a couple of autoimmune conditions. And X amount of years ago, when this all decided to pop its little head up,
Mm.
um, everything went to pot and my life had to stop
Mm.
for quite a while. 3.5 years where, I physically couldn't do anything, and emotionally it was really tough, and I was really struggling.
Mm.
Fast forward to where I am now, I, found a new purpose, figured out what wasn't working for me in life, what is working now. And I don't want to use the word limitations because
Mm.
today, ask me in a week, I might feel differently, but today I don't feel like it's a limitation.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that if I want to stay in a healthy boundary, then I need to take these things into consideration.
Yeah.
Don't always do it very well. But today I feel like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can find balance. I can make time to work, which I love. I love what I do.
Mm.
Um, I can make time to care for myself, which needs to be number one. And it's also, what I spout out about all the time. Self-love, self-love, self-care. So I need to be able to walk the walk as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
about everything that I feel so passionately about. And for some reason today, all of that just feels possible. So I feel like, yeah, all right, this, we can do this today.
Yay. I mean, mine is a reflection, so I know which one I'm going to pick from the low energy one because it comes
Yeah.
up a lot for me, and it's small steps climb big mountains.
Yeah.
So whenever I feel overwhelmed by the volume of things, that's why I love a list. It actually just gives me mental clarity, and then I can each step that I cross off, and I write micro actions. So
Mhm.
not get an Algerian visa, which is also up there, but all the micro steps that I've got to do to get the Algerian visa and getting the padron this morning. So that's when my mind is like, oh my God, I've done it. So I enjoy a challenge again, comes
Mhm.
a lot for me. I do feel motivated. Um, I think excited
Yeah.
is because it's just like a proper step closer.
Mhm.
I genuinely bounced out of bed when because I was like, fucking hell, she's good. Because I rang you in a panic, didn't I? Going, oh my God, they've said no, which is what I read from their capital letter email. I was like, oh.
I mean, it wasn't presented in the most,
It was
kind of
like
positive
angrily
way.
shouting at me that,
Yeah.
no. And I was like, shit. And then, when your world just implodes and you think, oh my God.
What am I going
So,
to do?
so getting that was massively, massively exciting and another step closer. So we're off to Alicante tonight now. So I can be banging
Woohoo.
on their door at 9 a.m. because they don't pick up the phone. They don't answer their emails. So I have no idea whether there's actually any people in the building. So we could be driving for a 6 hour round trip only to discover that actually there's no longer a consulate there. Who knows?
I mean, the joys and wonder of living in this incredible country, which is the best, and I wouldn't change it, but it definitely comes with certain elements that, make things more interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, I was on my call and they were like, what, you can't do that online? I went, no, 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 no.
We like old school.
No,
We
you
love
need
a bit of
bits of
old
paper
school
printed
face
out
to
in
face.
duplicate. I've got to take two
Yes.
copies of everything.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah,
all the
all the
stamping
stamping,
possible. Yeah.
all the stamping. So there we are. We're going to do that at the beginning of every session and at the end to see how our
Mhm.
little conversations shift us.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hopefully, we won't be taken too often into the low energy, unease, ready to pack it
oh
all in.
my
And yeah,
God.
say, no, I don't want to do this ever again.
No,
Goodbye.
no. It's making me sad. Cool. So we picked the topic today of life. I've done
Hmm.
absolutely no preparation whatsoever, which is good, I think. I think maybe we need to do it like that, right? So that we
Yeah,
just
me
come
too.
raw and ill prepared, just as.
A good amount of being ill prepared can work wonders for having frank, authentic conversations.
Here's one I prepared earlier. And life seemed very intuitively, because we did talk about courage being the first topic.
Yeah.
I think because of where we were at the time on a rooftop, and where we are in sort of life. So life feels like a good starting point from which all these other topics can fall out and drop out and
I
present
mean, it's
themselves.
basically what accompanies us the whole time, and as an introduction to where we're going to go with this, let's just delve into
Dive straight
the
in.
deepest of topics, life,
Life.
life,
Yeah, so let's just start there.
What
So
do you think about life, Linz? That's my question.
I know. Well, so I am gonna go with the definition first because even that is quite big, isn't it? Because life, to me, when you immediately go to the definition, is life and death.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
life being that you have life, but I think it's so much broader than that, isn't it? Because life is what we create. It's this experience that we're living. It's the choices that we make, and it's a precious thing. I think life is a massively precious thing, and we underestimate our ability to impact it. I think some people just
Yeah.
drift through life, making the odd choice here and there, perhaps, but really just following a predetermined path rather than going, I have one life, I'm going to make bold and courageous choices because it'll change, I mean, as we will with these
Every
conversations,
day.
get to points and kind of go, yeah, well, I thought I was going that way, but actually life is taking me that way. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts. What about you?
Interesting what you just said about, bold and courageous steps. I think a lot of the time we've been fed this idea about what life should mean, what a
Mm-hmm.
good life, these interviews that you've been doing, what a good life should mean. And going back to the idea of lists, also
Mm-hmm.
love a good list. But we've been given this list of
Yeah.
things that we should be achieving and we should be accomplishing. And if we don't, then is our life of any value? If we're married
Mm-hmm.
or not, if we have kids or not, if we have a successful career or not. And that for some reason, society's, determined that they're the things that make our life qualify as something that is worthwhile or not. And unfortunately, like we both see, both on a personal level and in what we're lucky enough to do, people forget
Mm.
that you get to choose.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean it's easy. And you talk about courageous steps, and that can be the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It like literally trying to step away from this idea of what you feel you should be doing in comparison to what you feel you would like to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not just as simple sometimes as saying, okay, let's be brave. It's like, okay, there's so much more to be unpacked there, and so much
Mm-hmm.
more to be examined there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably the biggest tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Good life doesn't necessarily have to tick all the things off of that list that our parents or society or we've decided need to be on there. It can mean staying in bed and having another cup of tea, you know?
Do you know what though? The freedom of that. So I'm gonna go into the sort of past life, having ticked all those boxes. So
Yeah.
absolute disaster in my 20s, failed at everything. I failed my A levels. I went to a pretty polytechnic, it would have been in old language, dropped out of that, so did not get a degree, became a single mother, and was just failing on every, box
According to the
that
list.
that needed to be ticked in the box. But then I thought, right, I'm going to show the world my life is worthwhile, to use what you just said. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to find myself a husband. I'm going to have another 2.4 children. Going to
Yeah.
get a dog and a big
Yeah.
house. Got to be detached, obviously, because that's the only measure of
Obviously.
success is a detached
Nice car, very
big
nice
car,
shiny
big,
car.
yeah, that and a six-figure salary and big job. And I was like, right, let me work my way through this list. I wanted to be there by the time I was 30 because that's like, that's a deadline that everyone should meet, right?
Obviously.
And it was kind of, and I didn't have the freedom to just lie in bed and have a cup of tea because I was always on the go, trying to be the perfect mother and do all of that stuff, running them around and what have you. And, the working week, 40 hours, corporate life is just not, it's just not 40 hours. And so the luxury of lying in bed was,
And nor is being a mom,
yeah,
So not only were you trying to live the corporate life, but be that perfect mom, which is another
yeah,
whole ridiculous topic that we could get into. Um, being a wife, still moving forward, trying to tick those
mm,
things off of your
mm,
list,
mm,
you know, there aren't enough hours in the
mm,
day
mm.
for to do half of those things, never mind all of those things.
So what's your past experience with life then?
Um, Interesting question. It's slightly different for me because I moved to Spain and to the top of a very pretty mountain to live with um all of the goats like Heidi 2 weeks after I finished my degree. So for quite a while, I kind of struggled with this idea of, wanting to be successful, but also knowing that out of choice, I chose to move here. I was very limited with the possibilities and the opportunities that I was going to have.
Mm,
Um, Being a mom was always number one.
mm,
Always. And that took us a little bit longer than what we thought it would. So after 3 years, of IVF and a huge big struggle, like I finally um became a mom, and that was great. And I'd been teaching for a long time, and I was successful in inverted commas, i.e., I was uh, well known around here, and I had a very good reputation, and I'd had a waiting list. So all of the things that on paper meant that everything was going really well.
mm.
My son was born. That was great. Mental, but great. And as soon as I stopped breastfeeding him after 10 months, my husband and I were like, okay, let's go do that again. Let's go back to the clinic. And they were like, what the fuck are you even doing here? Like, do you not remember everything we've been through? This is not going to happen. We're like, no, 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 no. Yeah, we want to carry on. We want to try again. So we did for another year. And then they were like, yeah, look,
Mm,
you're never going to get to the point where this is going to be okay for you. So now we're going to make that decision and you have to leave. So we left, and it was like, oh, cry, cry, cry. And it was all very emotional. And so if I couldn't do that, all of this happened
mm,
on a subconscious level, and I had no idea that any of this was going on. I completely shifted my focus and my direction. I was like, okay, now I must be successful in something else.
yeah,
And
yeah.
alongside a colleague, I opened up an academy here. And again, it was really good. We were very successful. Started to get involved in local politics. I was just about to start a master's in emotional intelligence. And I was like, yes, tick, tick, tick all the boxes. And then I got really sick.
Mm,
And at the time, it seemed like it had completely come out of nowhere. And I was
mm,
like, I just don't understand what's going on, because my body literally started shutting down. And
mm,
now, with the wisdom that
mm.
hindsight gives you, I can see that actually it was just a build up
Yeah,
of doing too much for too long and taking my body and my emotions to places that they really didn't want to go to.
mm,
Um, so that stopped me, and then gave me this period of time where I was forced to actually look at what the hell I was doing and what did I want to do with the rest of my life.
yeah.
And and then I happened across coaching, and the rest is history, and now I'm really happy. But life now and life then has always had a very, it's always been about connection. It's always been about family. It's always been about creating experiences that feed the soul,
Yeah,
and people and things that bring something to the table. It's just that in the past I thought I should be doing it in a
yeah.
different way, and now I'm still learning to do it differently, I suppose.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it? Because as you were talking there about, it's always been about family and connection. Mine was so the opposite, so
Mhm.
so fiercely independent, and I, well, not that I had, not that family were like, going, oh, let us support you through that, it was so I
Like
kind
a
of
personal choice.
yeah, almost the opposite, and so my connections, I don't want to say they were transient, but so now I really make mindful choices about who I spend my time with. Um,
Yeah.
because it's very easy to fill your diary and your time with stuff that doesn't really add value to anybody, to anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm really conscious about who I choose to spend my time with, who I will work with. So, kind of clients, I'd rather eat beans than work with people I don't feel
Connect.
an energetic connection with. That said, I mean, I do believe now, and I think part of the reason for doing this research and going out into the world is that I fundamentally believe at a human level we are all driven by the same things. It's love, it's a deep human need to kind of be seen. And when I say held, I don't, I suppose it's a metaphorical and physical thing. So at the end of the interviews, we
Yeah.
do these hugs. And I hadn't anticipated, because it was another one of those things that, a bit like these conversations, was just, this is how it's to be done. And not that I've got the answers, but that just the answers sort of come through me in this hug,
You just knew that that was the right way to end
to
this.
breathe and to
Yeah.
hug, right? Because I think we've forgotten how simple life is. Life is breath and life is love, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of forgotten that, and we're seeking other things to fill us up. But if you just breathe slowly and deeply and with intent, life comes through you. You can
Mhm.
hear yourself better. The busy mind where you're breathing up here and life's busy and stressful and you can't hear yourself. You hear
No.
this, but that's talking absolute nonsense. So breath, I think, in life, and that's what I'm doing now with these interviews, is really powerful and simple and free and quick, and hugging each other. So this is why this is going to be. So I said, when we're together on the 27th, we have to do a physical thing, because I absolutely believe we will and can stay connected as we travel. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it, because obviously my kids, I've got two boys, and it would obviously be so much nicer if I could get, because they're two big boys and I love being in the middle of all of that.
Huge.
Middle of all of that. But I fundamentally believe time is, the year will go, or however long we're away for, and the second we're back together, it's like you've never been apart. So
Yeah,
it feels
exactly.
like a long time. You're like, oh, but I think we need these opportunities of time and space in our lives to discover who we are, because you can fall into patterns of behavior that kind of like, right, well, we get together on a Sunday, or you do whatever you do,
Yeah.
without really stopping and thinking about what does life mean and how do we want to spend that time and with who. So yeah, that's, I suppose, my now and the future of life. I think one of the big things that's come up for me this week is around positive aging
Uh-huh.
and wanting to stay fit enough through to the end. I don't want to die slowly. I'd
Yeah.
rather literally just die than
Go.
deteriorate over years until there's just no quality in your life left. That is the absolute, to me, miserable end. I want to be fit and healthy and enjoy as much of life for as long as I can, doing as nutty things as I can possibly think of, just to keep young and, in my mind and my body for as long as I can.
It's funny because I've been going through a similar process, but from a completely different space over the last kind of 2 months because my sister's just turned 40. And she wasn't too excited about that idea, let's just say it that way. So she had, kind of like emotional ups and downs about this huge, what she felt was this huge shift, and
Mhm.
and what did it mean then turning for not the number in
Yeah,
itself, but
yeah,
like this idea of getting older, and by
yeah.
no means is 40 old,
Mhm.
obviously. Um, but it's been a kind of conversation that's been ongoing. And the conversation has obviously led us to the physical side of that, but not, healthy and being strong. But as women, the expectation to maintain certain standards of beauty and what it means to be beautiful, and what these little, crinkly things around my eyes and on my forehead, what they mean, and, this new image that I'm presenting to the world. And like, oh my God, why aren't we all just injecting plastic into our face so that we can be as young and youthful as possible? And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, zero judgment for anybody that decides that that's what they need, what they want, as long as it comes from your own center
Yeah.
and a place where you're doing it because it fills your cup,
Yep.
and not because, okay, I'm 42, I'm going to be 43 in a couple of weeks, and God forbid anybody see any wrinkles on my face,
We've
because
totally
what
got to
will
do
they
this
think?
in another Unpacked, right? Because I'm not going to unpack it now, because there is so much in that to unpack. Because I would challenge people. I know people have got so many, but we'll unpack that in another episode, because there is a lot there
To be continued.
to absolutely be continued. All of that aging, of that, at our core, why do we feel the need to stay young and beautiful,
Yeah.
rather than accepting aging, which, is totally linked to life. But I think there's a whole deep conversation we can have about that.
Well of things that we can just jump into and get our teeth into.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, interesting though, like you say, where life, this is the thing. This is why we decided to do the podcast, really. Come on, let's be honest. Because it doesn't matter what you and I talk about, we always end up somewhere, for us at least, interesting and deep. And our conversations quite often go backwards and forwards, and we'll be having five at the same time, but we'll end up finding some link. And so we might start off talking about, oh God, there's no way I'm getting out of bed this morning because
Yeah.
I'm just exhausted. And then all of a sudden we're talking about, politics in Africa. And then we come back to the fact that, oh God, I've just run out of my lipstick. And somehow there's some thread of the meaning of life and existence, and why it's important to just be you and to feel comfortable
Exactly.
being you and be authentic. So yeah,
Mm.
yay, very
Did you do
excited.
your future? Because I don't know whether you did, or and
I
I
don't
and
think
I
I
missed
did.
it. Because I think there's something about the future of this podcast, isn't there, in where it could lead. And not that I'm setting out with a massive intention to, do something groundbreaking and life-changing and all the rest of it, but it feels like an important conversation that needs to be had. And if it only ends up being a conversation between us to help navigate that future life, and where it leads and how we deal with the inevitable. Because it's like with my glass, I'm thinking they are actually really dirty. But eyesight for me was the first. I couldn't control it. I was like, I'm just going to not wear glasses. I'm just going to look harder
Yeah.
and make myself see. But it was like,
As if that works, because
I
if we all
know.
just
So it's
tried to
like
look
there's some
harder.
inevitable parts of aging that we cannot do. I suppose there's various bits and pieces we can, slow it down and all the rest of it. But aging is going to happen. We will get white hair. We, as women, will go through the menopause. Our eyesight will probably get even worse. So, it's navigating that, isn't it? So that life doesn't become a battle, fighting against it to try and stay young, but an acceptance of, God damn it, I need stronger glasses, or, I can't do, we were doing all the gardening yesterday, and it was just like, I woke up going, I'm really knackered. All I did was a bit of gardening.
Yeah.
It's
But
like,
also, like, maybe the one thing that I'd want to add to that is, and realizing how lucky we are if we get to age.
God, yeah, absolutely.
Rather than seeing it as this, oh, fuck, I'm getting so old, I'm getting all the wrinkles,
Mm.
oh, my birthday's coming. And I know that my perspective has been influenced through the things that I've been through with my illness. And, there was a time where talking about the future or thinking about the future didn't have a lot of shiny bits about it,
Yeah,
and maybe that made me so grateful to
yeah,
just be
yeah.
here and grateful every birthday. And it happened before I turned 40. So maybe that's why I didn't have a nervous breakdown about it, because I was like, "Woo, I've made it to 40." And I was like, yes, I can't believe it. Let's just carry on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the other side of it that we also forget to embrace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't forget it ever. So my brother made it to 22. He'll be ever frozen in time at 22. My granddad died at 92,
Yeah.
leaving, with a really long, healthy life. But I mean,
Yeah.
the last few months were a bit shit because he died of a stroke. That was not ideal. And my uncle, who's 85, is living a really full life, and not a day goes by. This is why I feel every single day, even if it is sometimes watching movies and eating popcorn, but it's through choice. It's like what's going to nourish me today? And 80% of the time, that is doing, really active things, because tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us at any
But
time.
also, it's part of the way you live your life. You are 80% active all the time because that's what you need. That's what fills your cup.
Mm.
If I'm 80% active all of the time,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to
yeah.
very quickly be in hospital.
Yeah,
So
okay.
for me, living a full life involves more of those days where I just need to be sat on the couch
Yeah,
eating popcorn and
yeah.
binge watching stuff on Netflix.
Which I'm going to
So
do this afternoon. I can't wait. I'm making leftover roast dinner. It's like my idea of heaven. I literally
heaven.
can't wait. It's even though it's not cold, I just feel better if I got a little blanket over me. I'll have my roast dinner. I shall probably snooze because I can't make it through an episode of anything now without falling asleep.
Because you're so old.
I
That's why.
know, I know, I'm on that downhill slope now. So yeah,
That,
falling
that's
asleep.
the that's the real sign. It's not even your eyesight. It's the fact that you can't watch a whole episode without just starting snoring. Yeah. Sorry, Linz. You're going
Oh,
down. It's all
I
downhill from now
know.
on.
I know. I love it though. You know that sleep though, where you're not really properly asleep. You're just in that lovely middle ground, and it's like, and you're not quite sure if it was 2 seconds or 20 minutes. You're like, just I go to sleep then. I don't
I
know.
asked my husband yesterday actually, because most days we'll have lunch, then we just have a little lie down, a bit of a Spanish
Yeah,
siesta.
exactly.
And I said to him yesterday, I was like, oh, do you think we're wasting our life doing this? And he was like, God,
Totally
no.
no.
No. He was like, who can
Totally
get
no.
through the afternoon without just having, just a little nappette, bit of a blanket, nice little snuggle in, and
I
then,
know.
we
I
get up and
love
get
that
on
it's
with
a law in Spain. I think that's why I moved here, because it's like, well, they make you sleep in the afternoon. I mean, I really don't want to, but
doesn't go with who I
culturally,
am, but when in Spain.
I have to. So yeah, that was a massive thing for me, because I think culturally, it is literally always on in the UK. That's what I notice when I go
Yeah.
back, is every night, every weekend, the shops are open 24/7. In some, like where I was, it was literally 24/7. And so when do you stop? There's no, you have to choose to stop. Whereas here, it's like if you go out on a Sunday, there's just no point. Trying to go and buy, so you don't. So Sundays become sacred, and then,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
just, it, it felt like being forced to slow down when we first got here, because, we were used to going on a Sunday and buying stuff, and,
Yeah.
and the fact that you can't, it's like, well, it's Sunday. Me.
What will we do except for make a roast for 12 people, even though there's only two of us? I mean, honestly, it's the only way forward.
So it is, I think, life is a, circling back to the beginning, life is a very precious thing, and the choices we make, the version of reality we might have been born into,
Yeah.
and whether we choose to live by that version of reality or choose something else that suits us better, that self-awareness of going, what do I actually want from my life? Is it this thing that I've been born into, or do I want to move away from that, whatever that means?
And believing that you have a right to even ask that question.
And that you can,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think as women, I look back on how my my mum and my, that the generations before, and the struggles that they genuinely had
Mm.
in the workforce, and that we really don't have that excuse anymore. I know there's all gender blah blah, and that would be another topic to unpack on another day. But as women, I think we're really blessed. I think men have got a tough gig at the moment, but we
I
are.
mean, I think struggles from the past have been substituted with newer ones, which on the surface might seem like they're not as, they're not as big. So,
Mm,
go back to the suffragettes and women didn't even have the right to vote.
exactly.
Women working outside of the home. Of course, they were huge things. But for me, we've almost gone to the other extreme,
Hmm.
where now we are expected to do all things, to be all to be all things, to be successful in every single realm. And if you now don't do all of that, well, you're a huge fucking
Yeah,
failure.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that can
yeah.
be just as overwhelming, just as limiting, just as daunting as when we look at our older female counterparts,
Mm, mm,
that have been through other struggles.
mm.
I,
Well,
I
for men
agree. I
as well,
think,
this is what I'm saying.
yeah,
The lines are blurred to the point that the roles that we traditionally thought of having, i.e., the tick list and the paths that people were destined to walk, have been blurred to the point of, the parental role, the breadwinner role, all of these roles that, and I think this is what's going to be interesting when traveling, is the challenge I'm going to have as a woman on the road,
yeah.
seeing how other people live. I think
Because
that's
that's also the other thing, isn't it? We're obviously giving our opinion on how easy life is for women as white women in Europe, where we have all of the opportunities. You are going to be traveling around the world and going to some of the more complex countries, like, for example, Iran, where female rights are
mm,
almost non-existent,
mm.
you
Well, we'll
know.
see, won't we? I think that's the interesting thing with some of this, is going there to experience it and see it through their eyes, rather
Yeah.
than the impressions we're given through media, and is to be feet on the street and seeing and hearing and experiencing it. So yes, there's a perception. It's just, is it reality? I don't know yet. And of course, they've lived that life, and therefore that is their normal, their
The
reality.
norm.
And so, there's that, the understanding, empathy, I was going to say acceptance. I'm not quite sure whether acceptance is the right or appropriate word there, but empathy and
Acceptance, if again, it's coming from a place that is from real choice and connection.
mm,
Obviously, that is a whole debate. But if you've been, brought up in this culture, is it your choice? Has it just been instilled? But, for me, it always goes back to that same thing, whatever we're talking about. And no doubt this will be the thing that comes up every time we talk and every time I chat. But this idea of true connection with ourselves
mm,
before we then go out into the world and try and connect with others.
yeah, yeah,
And that for me is, if I'm truly in line with what I need and, what I want right now, and I decide that at 3 o'clock, when the boys come home, there's not going to be any lunch
yeah,
because mommy's decided from a place of true connection that absolutely no, I'm not going to make, some homemade food for lunch. They're not going to be too happy about that. They're going to
you're
come
going to be
home.
hungry.
They're going to be really hangry. But if that's if I make that decision from a place of, okay, this is all I can give right now. And
Yeah,
I'm doing this to care and love for myself so that I can then care and love for you all in a
mm,
better
mm,
way.
yeah,
I don't even know if this example is any good, but, it doesn't matter what we choose
mm,
as long as it's not actively hurting somebody else
mm,
and it's connecting with, with what we need as a
Mm,
way to build ourselves up and then go out and make whatever difference it is that we're here to make. Whether that's tiny, medium, huge, it doesn't matter.
mm,
We're all making a difference all of the time.
yeah. Oh, so are we going to check out with cards?
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Why don't you go first this time?
Well, I have my energy has shifted up a bit. I'm at the if so when I did the measurement, so part of the compass is based from quantitative analysis, right? And the positioning
Uh-huh.
of these cards. So there's a whole lot of data that I couldn't repeat now because my brain has switched off from it. But there is positioning. So if I was in a position, I'd just have gone from the green to the yellow. I feel like I'm now in yellow. I can feel that my body is re-energized. So thank you for that.
Okay.
I do feel motivated. So
Yeah.
I feel like that. I do feel like I've been elevated, and I'm going to pick two because I also feel this. I feel like determined to make this happen. You know what I mean? It feels
Yeah.
important. It feels like it's not a draining thing, but a lovely, expansive thing. So
Yeah.
there's where
Something
I'm
that's
at.
bringing, filling our cup, adding to as opposed to taking away.
What about
Well, I've also shifted, but I've gone to lower energy as opposed
you?
to higher, but not in a bad way, in a very lovely way. So I'm still feeling definitely at ease, but just, I've come
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah. You've given your energy to me.
Um, I, I mean, you are all going to be so bored of me repeating this word, but this is how I feel when I'm connected with myself.
Yeah.
Because I can very quickly get into like, oh, high energy, let's go. Blah, 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 blah. And when I am connected, my energy comes down, and that's when I can slow things down.
Yeah,
And this conversation has
yeah,
reconnected me
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
that, which
yeah.
is why it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Definitely not a bad thing. And I think my card is, oh, I'll go for two as well then, shall I? Uh,
Oh, grateful.
I
Yeah.
feel grateful,
I love
obviously.
that image. That really represents, yeah, that
Yeah.
loving, yeah, absolutely. Big heart.
And I feel calm.
Yeah.
I feel just calm and like this has
Love.
been lovely. And it's the type of conversation that I love, that fills me, with all of the warm stuff. Um, and now I'm gonna go get on with the rest of my day. I will make some lunch for the boys. I know I used that as my example, but I'm gonna do it. And then
Yay.
I've got some sessions this afternoon. Um, but yeah, I feel like the rest of the day will come from that space of calm.
Nice.
And okay, let's do this without
Nice.
being mental. Let's do it from a nice, calm space. Okay, well, I am so excited about
I
this. I'm
know.
excited about where
Number
this is
one done.
taking us. Tick
And like
off.
in like a year will be and episode 800 and we've been doing this.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. And then people will listen back to the first one and be like, yeah,
What
what
the
bullshit. They
hell?
would just like slow things down, do things in conscious space, choose things that fill your cup. And they've done 959 episodes in 52 weeks. And they've both had a nervous breakdown.
They just can't shut up.
Okay, well, I love you.
Oh. Mwah. I'll speak to you soon. Have a great day. Enjoy your lunch.
Thanks. Bye.
Adios.